This is the Crime Cafe, your podcasting source of great crime, suspense, and thriller writing. I'm your host, Debbie Mack. Before we get started, here's an offer you need to know about. Go to the Crime Cafe Facebook page, give it a like, and sign up for my newsletter. In return, I'm giving a free sample story from the Crime Cafe short story anthology. And what's more, I offer subscribers the ability to enter a giveaway for the Crime Cafe 9-book set if you enter the contest and leave a review of the anthology. The contest closes on December 30th, so check it out now. With that said, I'd like to introduce a delightful author who I had the pleasure of meeting at VoucherCon on a panel several years ago. Her name is Maria Hudgins, and she writes travel mysteries. Now, how awesome is that? It's great to have you on, Maria. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for asking me, Debbie.
Well, I'm very pleased to do so. I saw from your bio that you taught a wide variety of science classes.
Yes, and you can usually see those things come out in my books, too, because I can't resist throwing a little science in.
I was going to say, it must provide you a rich source of plot material. Have you used all of your different sciences in your...
Oh, let's see. Oh, the Death of an Ivory Tower, I used a good bit of biology and chemistry. And then I also taught oceanography. There's some of that in Death of an Ivory. Boy, I just used them all. But I have taught oceanography, earth science, biology, and chemistry. And I usually manage to get those all in somehow.
That's fantastic. And none of your protagonists, I assume, have been meth dealers.
No.
that one has been taken. Not that it couldn't be redone. But, one never knows. Let's see. Your stories take place all over the world. How do you choose where to set them?
Oh, well, I always go there first. Mm-hmm. And I have gone places that I haven't written a book about. But if I've been someplace and I've taken good notes and then something occurs to me, I will use it as a setting for a book. In this particular case, in Death of an Ivory Tower, I wrote it about my favorite city in the whole world, which is Oxford, England. And I actually had been there several times, but before writing this book, I went there and stayed at Jesus College and collected information for the setting of the book. So if you ever go to Oxford, go by Jesus College, and I'm sure you'll see everything will remind you of this book.
Huh. Yeah, I've been to England, but I haven't been to Oxford. One of these days I want to get back.
Right. Have you ever watched the Inspector Morse
I've heard
shows
of it,
on
but
TV?
Never seen it.
Oh, well, they go all over Oxford, and I like to watch those and just follow him around town because I know all the sites in Oxford. I think I could be a blue badge guide. I believe I've been to Oxford so many times.
Oh my gosh! Wow. What is your latest book about?
Okay, Death in an Ivory Tower is about a conference in Oxford, England, where my protagonist is Dotsie Lamb. She's a historian from Virginia, and she's working on her PhD. So she's going there for a conference, and it deals with the effects of the King Arthur legend on English history. And so it's all very academic, don't you know? But I always try to get Dotsie's best friend, Letty, into a book. So in this case, it's not since Letty doesn't know a thing about history. She's there. She's also in Oxford, but she is just babysitting for her daughter's children. That gives me an excuse to take Letty to Oxford. But the story involves a man from Glastonbury, England, which is reputed to be the place where King Arthur was buried, although we're not too sure there ever was a King Arthur. But he says he's going to prove that Arthur was a real person because he's got Arthur's bones. And the only problem is he ends up dead the day before he's supposed to give his speech.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. And so we know that's not okay. Which gives me an excuse to get a little bit of chemistry and biology into the story. Right, yes. Yes. Also, the protagonist, my protagonist, Dotsy, is diabetic. And several of my stories will have diabetic connections, but I am not diabetic myself. My mother was, so that's how I happen to know something about it. But that all works into the story, and there's not too much science in it. Don't think the book would put you off because there's too much science, but there really isn't much in there.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's interesting to have stuff like that in there, in a way that people can read and understand.
Well, I try to not put too much in there because my temptation is to put too much in. But in this one, though, I got very interested in the King Arthur legend, and I actually went to Glastonbury, which is in the very western part of England, and investigated around there, and I have become convinced that there really was a person, not a king, but a hero in Western England in the 5th century, named something like Arthur. So we'll say an Arthur-type person did live there, and he was a hero.
Interesting. As for Dotsy Lamb, tell me a little about her and how she kind of progresses through the series. And what's her story arc, I guess.
Yes. Dotsy is mid-60s, and she was sort of thrown for a loop when her husband of many years, after 5 children, left her for a younger woman. And so she didn't miss a beat. Her children were all grown, so she went back to school. She finished up her master's degree and became a history teacher. So she now teaches ancient and medieval history at a junior college in the western part of Virginia. And actually, since the end of this book, she now has her PhD. But she has 5 children and several grandchildren, and she's a lovely person. But actually, in the book that preceded this one, which is called "Death of a Second Wife," I killed off his new wife. So, at any rate, Dotsy is you'd like her. She's a good listener. She loves people, and she does not carry a chip on her shoulder because of things that have happened to her. She just goes right along, and she loves history, so that gives me a chance to get some history and some archaeology into my books.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
History is very interesting. I love that subject.
Yeah. Yes, and archaeology is another one of my main subjects. I've written two archaeology mysteries that are online as Kindle books only.
Is this the one with your younger protagonist?
Yes,
I was just going to ask about that.
Yes. Lacey Glass is she's actually a plant pigment expert, but that skill is called for on a lot of archaeological digs, and so she can go there and identify the seeds. She can identify any pigments on pottery and stuff like that. She can tell where everything originated, and that gives her an excuse to meet some really sexy archaeologists.
Indiana Jones.
right, exactly. And I have just written another book that I have big hopes for. It's really different. The protagonist in this one is a girl named Enola Raven, and she is an archaeologist from Tennessee, and she's a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. But her first assignment is to go to Egypt. So that she's an Indian in Egypt, if you can believe that.
Now, what prompted you to write about these other protagonists?
I I just like to branch out and write after writing all these Dusty books. A lot of people love them, and I do too. But I also had a sort of a inkling. I wanted to write something that was a little edgier, not dark, but just the newest thing I've written is really a thriller more than a cozy mystery. So it doesn't follow at all the arc of a cozy mystery.
That sounds really cool.
Well, I enjoy writing it. I sure did.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
I think thrillers are fun to write.
Yes. Well, I haven't tried it before.
Yeah. Neither had I before I did my first one.
I have my own reading is going that way, to where I'm reading more thrillers than I used to, and so naturally, that's what I want to write.
Mm-hmm. I can understand. What authors have inspired you to write the way you do?
Oh dear, it's hard to say. Isn't it? I imagine it's the same with you. You just start writing, and you realize that it sounds like you when you write it. But I used to be a great fan of Agatha Christie. I think I've read everything she's ever written. But more modern books, I love some of the English writers like Peter Lovesey and Colin Dexter, and for American writers, I'm right now on a Michael Connelly kick. I think I read, like, the last 10 books I've read have been Michael Connelly books. So I seem to read more the men, but there's no particular reason for that. I just like a good story.
And have you ever thought of doing travel writing?
I don't know what the market is like for that. I don't know. Is there any money in that?
Apparently there is. I've heard that there is. Anyway,
I think I could do it. I just have never looked into it. No, but I do love to. But I guess what would hold me back is I am a horrible photographer. I think you need to know how to use a camera, and I am really bad with that. But no, that would be fascinating, and I have right now a trip planned to Japan in the near future. So I will have some more stories about that.
I was going to say, you're going to write a story about Japan.
I don't know yet.
You'll know when you get there and see something.
Right. First, something has to strike my fancy when But I do. I take a trip notebook and I write down everything, including silly little things, that I just like what I see in the gutter on trips and stuff like that. You never know when little details like that are going to come in handy.
Exactly.
Yes. And, I know somebody else that has influenced me a lot, and that's Aaron Elkins. He's a forensic, he's a bone doctor. And he, a forensic, whatever. Yeah, he really is in real life, but
forensic pathologist, something like that.
Something like that. Any rate, Aaron takes a tape recorder with him and just records as he's walking along in a foreign country. He just keeps a running dialogue going of everything he sees. And so and then he comes back to his hotel room and transcribes that, and he ends up with a great record of what is in what he's seen on his trip.
Cool.
But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, do you tend to write on the road, or do you just kind of like take notes and think about it?
I just take notes. I write at home. I've got my own little cozy place set up in my den. But when I'm traveling, I take trip notes, and I'll take maybe 2 or 3 pages of notes in my notebook every night, just to see things I've seen that day, which really helps if I use that then in a setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite destination?
Oh, yes, Egypt. I love Egypt. I want to go back. Yes, but things in Egypt have been a little bit dicey recently.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still going to go. I'm going to take a chance on it and go soon, but not right now. I may wait maybe 6 months from now. I went to Egypt about 5 or 6 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And I've been to Turkey twice now. I like the archaeology, and so you can't do better for archaeology than you can in Turkey or in Egypt.
I was going to say that squares with the archaeology.
Right, yeah. And I'd also like to go to Israel and places, go to Israel also. But some of the Middle East is a little bit, again, you don't want to go there right this minute.
Yeah. Well, do you have any travel advice or writing advice for people who are listening?
Oh, travel advice. Just go. You know, so many people are afraid. So many people are afraid something horrible is going to happen. But listen, no matter where you are in the world, if you've got some plastic, you can get home.
That's right.
You know, it's not like back in the old days where you could get stranded somewhere and then never get home. But just go and have fun and try to get off the beaten path. Go places where other people, where tourists don't go.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Yes, I have. I deliberately do things that the rest of the tourists don't.
I'm with you there. It's just so nice to go to a place and then just try to get in with the locals and
right.
Kind of
it is.
Learn the customs and so on and so forth.
And over and over again, you discover that people are pretty much the same everywhere, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's more fun that way.
Yes, it is.
Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
If anybody wants a copy of Death in an Ivory Tower, just leave a note on your blog where I put that thing, and I will do a drawing in about a week for who gets the book, okay?
Alrighty then. Well, that's great.
Right. Well, thank you, Debbie.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Maria. It was great talking to you. And as I said, if you go to if you go to the Crime Cafe Facebook page and like it, you can sign up for my newsletter and enter my contest for the Crime Cafe 9-book set. And on that note, I'll just say, I think by the time this gets up on the podcast, it will be Christmas. So
it will.
Happy holidays to everybody, and I will talk to you all in 2 weeks.